أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. See you all again. As a bonus, what's the keyboard shortcut to maximize the window?
That was last year.
Alt.
Very good, but I didn't do what you said.
What was it?
I tried something. It was the Windows key and up. So, probably the same. Oops. Okay, how to survive online. Who remembers something from last time? By way of quick recap. Yes?
That you're the product, not the consumer, and the consumers are people behind the screen who like to feed us of what you, maybe on YouTube, what you watch, and then for recommending different related stuff.
Very good. Did you hear the first thing you said there? You're the product, not the consumer. What does that mean? We said that we live in an attention economy, right? Where our attention, there's loads of data, there's loads of information everywhere on the internet, but the thing that people are competing over, the thing that people are buying and selling is your and my attention. How much time we spend on these devices, not just the devices, but that particular app or website or game, right? And especially if something is free, a free app, a free website, free social media service, we should be very careful because that means we are the product, not the consumer. If you buy something and you use it, you're the consumer, you have some power in the matter. But what's happening increasingly now, particularly if something is free, and we said including free games, right? This is why I'm quite unpopular. I tell people don't play free games. And they tend to be the most fun, addictive ones, right? For some people. But I say don't play free games because you're the product, not the consumer. Okay? We also mentioned that, these devices, whether it's your phone, your laptop, tablet, or games console, they're very different to new inventions from before, the new technology from before, the phone, the one that connects to the wall, right? The radio, the TV. Because some people might say, there's always been new technology, new stuff coming out, and people have always complained, look at the impact this is having. But, as I said before, the difference between those and this is these guys. Who remembers who these guys are? Yeah?
Like I said, so what you're doing on a website, they take that into like loads of, I can't remember the name of it, but they take it into loads of big things and then it says like recommended stuff.
Yes, to do with that. But what are these people called? Attention? Not attention seekers. That's some of you lot. Yeah. Attention engineers. Right? And they use hundreds of years worth of accumulated wisdom in psychology, right? What makes us tick, what makes us click, what catches our attention, how to hijack our body's natural circuitry when it comes to this thing here, dopamine, right? We spoke about. And their job is to do one thing: increase time spent on site. increase the time we spend on that service, increase the time we spend on that app, increase the time we spend on that game, right? Because our attention, the longer we're on that game, the longer we're on that device, the longer we're on that app, the more advertising can be sold against our time spent on that thing, right? And particularly if something is free. So what we said, they're really, really, really good at it, right? And we went through this. What does this, who remembers this?
If you have 15 of your Facebook likes, so they know better than your colleague.
Yes.
If it is 150 likes, they know better than your parents, and if it is 300, they know
Yes.
better than your spouse. So,
Excellent. Jazakallah khair. Michael Kaczynski did this research, right? If they have knowledge of your Facebook likes, they can estimate aspects of your personality better than your colleague, better than your mother, and better than your wife or husband, right? And he said, this is the key thing here, our smartphone is a vast psychological questionnaire that we are constantly filling out, both consciously and unconsciously. There's a lot of information about our deep personality traits, our likes, our dislikes, things and data about us, stuff that we buy, websites that we go on, right? When we're scrolling down the timeline, how fast we scroll over certain things and how slowly we scroll over other things, the messages we write, obviously. If our emails are not encrypted, we'll talk about that later inshallah, who we email, what we say to them, what we mention, right? Who we text, who we message in some apps, what we say, the keywords that we search for, okay? All of these things, even things that we type and delete before sending. Yeah, these are now stored to make a profile about us, our psychological profile. That they, in some cases, they may know us better than we know ourselves, right? So, we said we live in an attention economy. Our attention is what's being competed for. We have behind these apps, behind these games, behind these devices, very intelligent, very clever people who weren't, they didn't set out to ruin people's lives. They're trying to make the world a better place, whatever. But they're in an industry, they're in an economy and environment that rewards increasing time spent on site, time spent on that game, that app. Moreover, they have access to deep insights about what makes us tick, right? When it comes to designing every detail of these things. And, remember this guy? They don't do the work now themselves, they have these algorithms to do the work for them. And these algorithms are like instructions given to computers. And they begin to learn for themselves. Here's all the information about these people. Here is their psychological questionnaires that they're always filling out. I want you to do whatever it takes to increase the time they spend on this app. And we spoke about YouTube, for example. Part of there's a proprietary YouTube algorithm owned by Google that just serves up watch next. Yeah, that's why when we go on a YouTube video and it finishes, what happens? It shows us something that it thinks that we will watch. Not something that's good for us, not something that's maybe even true, not something that we even like, but something we're likely to watch. What's the difference again between something that we like and something that we're likely to watch?
it's on the same topic which we just chose earlier.
Similar topic, could be a similar topic.
Something more about that.
Right? Yeah?
If you don't like something, you might want to watch it so you can other facts about it.
Excellent. The algorithms realized that you don't get success just from showing people what they like. Sometimes people will watch something that they really hate, or something that will make them really angry, or something that will reinforce some stereotypes and biases and prejudices in their mind already. Okay? And oftentimes this is not even true. Yeah? Fake news. Okay, we'll talk about that in a minute, inshallah, as well. On that point, something funny happened recently, right? And that is somebody complained to me. They said that they saw on our website islam21c.com, sign up today. /donate. Just kidding. It's free, yeah. Moving on swiftly. Next slide. There was a video on the site embedded from YouTube. Okay, they watched that video and they complained to someone who then told me about it. They said, "Why have you got videos on your website about XYZ thing?" Getting a bit angry. Now you're choosing what you put on your website. I said, "What? What are you talking about? What video?" They said, "This video about ABC," and they were really angry about it. I said, "That video wasn't actually on the site, but that's what YouTube was showing you based on your own search history and based on your own interest in cookies and browsing data, that knew you are going to, maybe because you're so angry about it, you're going to watch that now." Right? So there's a lot of data that we're just leaking away, information about us, that allows these companies, sometimes it's just benign, it's not very harmful necessarily, not very harmful, right? But sometimes it may be. And we want to talk today as well, inshallah, about some people that might have a bad intention or a malicious intention for wanting to learn or get some of that information that we're blasting out there on a daily basis. Okay? We mentioned these guys, right? Steve Jobs, we limit how much technology our kids use at home. Chris Anderson, former editor of Wired. My kids accuse me and my wife of being fascist and overly concerned about tech. Right? They say none of their friends have these strict rules. These are people who know the impact of these devices on especially young people's minds. Just by a show of hands, who was here last week? Just quickly, and who wasn't here? Okay, so 50-50, I'm just quickly going through. Facebook's founding president, who left in 2005, he said, "Facebook's architects exploited a vulnerability in human psychology." Right. This is a picture of the human brain, and we went over this. We said, particularly a person under 25 years old, we have an overactive striatum and it's maybe not nice to say underdeveloped, right? I was reflecting over there, it's a bit raw. A developing prefrontal cortex, yeah? And this leads us to an increased risk-taking and impulsive behavior, and heightened sensitivity to instant rewards, right? Because our ability to calculate risks isn't as strong as when we're a bit older. And this is why when you're younger, your car insurance is very expensive, for example. So we said all of these issues, right, surrounding attention economy, these very sophisticated tools that are used to increase the amount of time we spend on these devices, and particularly on certain apps and games and so forth. They know what tech makes us click, they know what makes us tap, they know what makes us scroll, right? What effect is this having on human beings? What impact is this having on us? I want you guys to answer this question. think about it for a minute if you want, while I try and display two things at once here. Right, what impact is this having on us? Whoops. Okay, you can see that now. Okay, FOMO is one of them. What's FOMO?
Fear of missing out.
Fear of missing out. Yeah? It's a new type of anxiety disorder. Excuse me. I'm going to use this because I don't know how to see my notes and this at the same time. See too many devices.
You can see you're surviving online.
Yeah.
3 devices.
Right. What impact is this having on us? Other than making us buy all this tech.
Brain is sort of addicted. It is like on dopamine. It's constantly thinking whether I'll get a message, a like or something, so we're constantly wired.
Absolutely. That's one major thing, addiction. Right? They say social media is more addictive than cigarettes and alcohol to young people. Okay? Dopamine, you get a dopamine hit every time you get that little ping, right? Or the little vibration. Now people even are feeling what they're calling phantom messages, phantom vibrations. It's part of the addiction where they feel that their phone just went off and it didn't happen. Yeah, some people are smiling because they're having it all the time, right? There's, as you may know, there are rehab clinics now for social media addiction. Right, it's a serious thing. What else? Yeah, brother.
It can lead to oppression, and you can get bullied by it. Because
Yes.
if you get addicted for too long, people can start. You can get in a cycle and in a bubble of people where you can be at the centre of it.
Cyberbullying is a massive thing now. Right, no doubt if you're in school, you're going to have some advice and guidance given about that. Yeah?
You might like train yourself basically just to stay in like a friendship circle thing.
Yeah? Peer pressure. It's as old as peers, or how some people call them peers.
Connected to that, young girls, right? They could potentially be living in that world, whether we look good or not, and
Yes.
creating the psychological problems.
So young women in particular, right, they suffer the same things that our brothers might suffer, but some of these things as well, such as the Instagram compare and despair culture, right? Constantly being bombarded with artificial standards of beauty and ugliness, right? Never being happy, having body consciousness issues, right? Recently in the news we saw that mental health problems are increasing amongst young people, right? I'm not going to say it's all because of this, but we have to be careful with these devices like this, right? Also, young women, they're disproportionately found to take to social media when they're depressed or anxious or worried. And because of the artificial intelligence algorithms, remember her, Fatima? She goes on Facebook, Instagram when she's depressed, right? And the algorithms have picked up on this. So they keep her in this loop, in this continue to keep her in this state where she's more likely to spend time on that device, i.e. when she's shown maybe news that's giving her more anxiety, right, or pictures of models or whatever that are giving her more reason to click and get and remain in that state of mind, right? 1 in 5 secondary school students interrupt their sleep in order to change in the middle of the night in order to check their messages. Right? It's leading to an impact on how much attention we have and can keep on a task, especially in our young brothers and sisters now growing up in this culture where we're constantly being interrupted, okay, and it increases our distractibility as well. So we can't keep our minds, fixed to do a productive task. What did we say is one of our weapons when it comes to getting out of this dopamine, this weaponized dopamine loop? Yeah.
It was to for the messages to silent your phone.
Yes.
And
Excellent.
have digital sunset.
Yes.
So
About the point on silencing your phone, is it just to silence it or
So stop notifications.
stop notifications, right? Turn off notifications and be in charge of your own usage of your device, right? Rather than you running to your device every time it vibrates or every time it makes a noise. Tell yourself that at this time I'm going to check my device. If I get a message, fair enough. If I don't, then fair enough. Okay? Because what happens is when you don't turn off notifications, it increases your sensitivity to the dopamine hit whenever you do get something and whenever you get something that maybe you're anticipating. And this increases the addiction. We said this is how they train dogs to do tricks. Randomizing the reward, giving it a Scooby snack or whatever when it shakes your hand. Or don't shake the hands of dogs, they're religious. Okay. Now, digital natives, right? This is something I said we'd speak about this week. Especially if you're under, I think, 10, 15 years old. As a show of hands, how many of you under 11? If you minus the nights and the weekends. Again? Under 11? Okay, there was definitely at least one before. It's just been your birthday now. Okay, mashallah. Under 15? Excellent. You guys have grown up in the era of high-speed internet. Right? Let me tell you some facts that might not scare you, but will definitely scare some of your parents. Right? Interacting with a screen now is more natural than learning to walk. Yeah? 54% of 0 to 2-year-olds can swipe a touchscreen. 76% of 3 to 5-year-olds can do that. 44% of 0 to 2-year-olds can open apps. And 33% can take a picture with it. What is the long-term effect that you think this is having on the future character building of these children, these babies? Right? What do you think?
They become reliant on that device.
Mm-hmm.
The impact's going to be really big because, when they go to school, they might not be able to get off it, and then they'll be always in at school.
Okay, excellent. Yeah.
Maybe if they cry or moan before the screen, then they've just learned that I just have to moan and then I'll get a screen. So then it's better to teach them that either you do it or you do it the hard way or the easy way.
This is something, you hit the nail on the head, right? MashaAllah. This is something, as parents, right, we need to be very careful of. Phones and YouTube and these apps, they are like supercharged dummies now for kids. When they cry, many people give them these devices to them and they shut up. Right? And you take it away from them and they start throwing a tantrum. This is not good for their development. You don't need to be some kind of psychologist to realize this. Right? How many of you guys are into gaming? Yeah, astaghfirullah. I'm going to put my hand up as well. I'm not going to lie about this, right? I said in the khutbah today that you could be rewarded even while you're playing FIFA. Not because I'm a FIFA fan. I prefer ISS myself back in the day. Pro Evo. Yeah. But look, in order to be a good Muslim, right, while you're worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you can worship Allah all the time. So if your intention is, right, even while you're doing something like playing, that I want to relax for a short period of time, I want to recharge my batteries, so I can be refreshed when I go to worship Allah, when I go to the masjid or that kind of stuff, right? Or you're intending that you're obeying your parents when they say, okay, you can only play for half an hour, and then when they say stop playing, I'm going to, obey my father, because when I obey my father, Allah is pleased with me, right? I did get some funny looks from the congregation today anyway, but online gaming in particular, we have to be very careful about, right? Especially our young brothers. It's less an issue with the sisters, but mothers and fathers, we have to pay attention as well, because apart from the addiction element that we discussed and we recapped today, right? When it comes to online gaming, most of the time we don't know who we or our children are playing against. Right? Sometimes you might think they're playing with the little headset or without even the headset, and you might just think, okay, it's good they're playing a game, whatever. But they could be interacting with someone who's 30 years old. Maybe a person has a malicious intent, right? We don't even realize. You wouldn't obviously invite a stranger to come and enter your house and play with you there, but through the airwaves, through the internet, damage can start. In 2014, there was a tragic case of Brett Bednar. I think it was 2014 or 15. Right, 14-year-old boy. He developed a relationship with a 19-year-old whilst playing online, a game, Call of Duty. His mother, she became increasingly worried. She said she was aware of this. She said, this is a bit, odd. Why are you spending so much time playing with this person in particular? Do you even know him? And this person, this 19-year-old, he kind of brainwashed this boy against his own mother. Okay? Don't listen to your mother, she doesn't know what she's talking about, blah, 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 blah. Right? And one thing led to another, and he lured this boy, Brett Bednar, to a place, he assaulted him and he killed him. Right? The mother, she had already gone to the police. This 19-year-old was already on some databases of the police. But they weren't prepared for this new threat to young people. To them, grooming and this kind of stuff, this happens to girls and have to be, they focus on that thing, right? But the threats that we face are changing, and we have to be prepared for how to protect ourselves and our brothers and sisters, our children, from these threats. Okay? So young people, if you're involved in games, online gaming in particular, make sure you have an open relationship with your parents, your elder brothers and sisters, aunties, uncles, someone you trust, someone who has your long-term benefits and success in mind, not just the few hours that the attention engineers have in mind, right? So that you can tell them, I'm playing this game, and here are the settings, right? And fathers, in particular, if you're going to give your kids these things, know the risks, right? Know how to change the settings. So you can, for example, like in Fortnite, it's very popular now, right? And this is one of the games I tell people don't play, because it's not just because it's free, because it's laced with these dopamine hijacking techniques, right? Weaponizing this, exploiting these circuits, right? No pause button, the kind of free-for-all, the speaking over the airwaves, right? And you don't know necessarily who you're speaking to, who you're playing with, but you can. If you know the settings, you look at get an adult to help you set it up properly, you can choose who you interact with and who you don't, right? And you can, I'm pretty sure you can make it so that you're only interacting with your friends that you know in real life anyway, okay? Who knows what these are? Yeah? Cookie Monster. Right. What does he love? Cookies. Yeah?
Is this one that allow cookies on the side or something?
Yes. Cookie is not just a delicious treat, but it's something that now the tech, I'm aware there's a lot of IT guys here who are probably going to lynch me if I get this wrong. Alright? Arif Bhai is like stretching his knuckles, being ready to. Every time you go on a website, okay, a small piece of data is downloaded to your computer, right? This builds up a long-term record of every website that you've been going on, what you've been doing, maybe the things that you've been buying, the things you've been clicking on, right? And it's used to sell to advertising companies, sometimes to governments, right? To security services of some of these governments. And these are used to bombard young people with targeted advertisement as well. Okay? I've got a friend, a brother who works in one of these evil advertising companies, right? One of the early ones that started this. And he was saying, he's not a bad guy, he's a really nice brother, inshallah. And he's trying to obviously minimize the harm of these types of things. But he's always giving me these scary stories, right? That, for example, some of these advertisers, they can tell maybe from people, for example, suffering from bipolar, okay, from certain mental health issues, they can tell just by their activity online when they're about to enter into a particular phase, like a manic phase, right, in their bipolar. When they're about to become depressed. Judging by the trends in the things that they click, they search for, they buy, and so on and so forth. Right? Especially now with Google. Most people use Google as a search engine. Right? It's like a verb now, I'll just Google it. Just go and Google it. Right? There's many other things that you can use. But when you Google something, you're giving Google information about what you're thinking about. Right? That doesn't necessarily mean it's an evil, bad thing, but it depends on your own risk profile. Right? If you're someone maybe who's traveling to different countries and some of those governments might be hostile, for example, to certain maybe the work that you're doing, you'd have a different risk profile to somebody who's maybe just going about his daily life. But the point is, we have to be aware of these things. Okay? It's very easy to turn off the storage of these cookies, to hide, to increase your privacy, right, when you're online, because predators can also use this information. Right? They can, hackers can exploit this information. They can blackmail you. This is an increasing problem now. People being blackmailed for their personal data. Right? We need to know, if we're going to have phones at a younger and younger age, how to control the settings. Right? What information are we just leaking away? It's being this is I think distracting, this gif about cookies. Right? We need to know what permissions that we give different apps. Okay, so let's quickly do an experiment. Normally they say don't use your phone, whenever there's a lecture going or whatever. But this is not a lecture, this is a workshop. Yeah. So I want everyone to get their phones out. I'm going to do this as well. Okay. want you to open up your normal browser and go to the following website. Islam to Let's get a few thousand hits, you know. Go to history.google.com. History.google.com. Okay? This is only going to work if you have a Google account anyway in some form or another, which, if you know, it's highly likely that you do, even just for YouTube or Gmail, obviously, calendars. If you have an Android phone, you certainly have a Google account. History.google.com. History.google.com. Right?
.co.uk.
Just .com. Okay, what do you see? This is a useful account of a lot of stuff, a record of everything you've been doing on Google.
Says sign in.
Right? Yeah, you might have to sign in if you're not already signed in. Okay. Okay. Anyone got in? Who wants to share some of their, wants to be brave and share some of their, what they see? Okay, if you're signed in, go on the top left-hand corner, the 3 horizontal lines, click that where it says next to my activity. Right? And just as an example here, let's have a look at other Google activity. Right? Location history. It's been saving where you've been going. Okay? Device information. YouTube not interested. Feedback. Likes, dislikes, ad settings. Call management information. Orders. Okay? Go to activity controls, right? Go to that that menu, right, in the top left-hand corner. Activity controls. This is where you can turn off and on these certain different things. Okay. Saving your web and app activity. Okay. Your location history, device information, and the next one is quite scary. Voice and audio activity. Yeah? Voice and audio activity. Does anyone have that turned on? Is it turned on? If you click manage activity or whatever it's showing you there, mine's turned off now. But it used to be, I don't know about now, but it used to be turned on as default. Right? Now what it's doing is, whilst your phone is nearby, without you actually realizing, or even when you're logged onto a laptop or something, it's going to turn on the microphone and start listening to your voice. Right? Supposedly, so it can get better and better at detecting your voice and analyzing it when you say, you know, hey, okay Google, can you show me blah 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 blah. Right? But it's spooky, isn't it? Okay. I checked my wife's one a few months ago. You know, we went through it. Said, do you know this is happening? This is recording random snippets of your voice. So we went through it, and you can play it back as well. The bits that it's recorded, just randomly talking or telling off the kids. Yeah. This is being stored by Google. Okay. I'm not saying don't trust anyone and, you know, just be a hermit or whatever, but know the information that you're leaking, the data that's coming out. Because it just takes somebody to maybe hack into your account, maybe your password is, you know, password. Or if you're a Muslim, Tawheed. Or with an extra level of encryption, you know, you put a 1 instead of the I. Yeah? Abu Rumaisa's like, damn, how do you know my password? Right? It just takes somebody to just guess some of your data, you know, your password and your secret answers or whatever, and just get access to all of these different things is very, very important that we're aware of the risks online, okay? Now you can put your phones away.
Is
Okay.
that the same for Siri?
I don't know about Siri. But
It will miss, and even if your location service is on the smartphone, you can see how many number of times and in which at a particular location you were, and like
Yeah,
and
yeah.
from what time to what time, and like these type of things are there. Even your location setting is on. Normally when you use maps, normally you keep this thing on, and I can tell you where were you yesterday night from just by using your phone. And if I can see that, how much what have you got?
yeah. So your iPhone, for example, it will record certain things like where you've been visiting and so forth.
Yeah.
But last time I checked, they said that that's actually stored locally on the phone. It's not stored in the cloud.
It's
Somebody's
sent twice
shaking
a
their
day.
pardon?
It's probably sent twice a day.
It's
probably sent back to the server twice a day.
twice a day, okay. There you go. So be aware of the risks. Okay. Another thing you need to be careful of, especially young brothers who like, free games on apps now. Whenever you download an app on your phone, or you shouldn't have a phone if you're young anyway, but inshallah, if you're on your parents' phones, be very careful, okay, not to just download any old app. Okay? Give it to your parents if you want an app and show them I want this app. And parents, look at the permissions that you're giving this app before you download it. Okay? I just did a quick experiment a few hours ago, because I remember looking at, sometimes you see these bikes just popping up, just parked on the street. Right? You unlock it with your phone and it's like really cheap, like 50p for half an hour or something. When I saw this, I thought definitely this is something dodgy, because you're not making money, right, on the actual bike, 50p for half an hour. So I downloaded the app, and when it told me to sign up to an account, it had a long list of permissions that it wanted me to give. Right? And that's the real thing that it's after. Permission to look at all of your call history, all of your text message history, all of your photos, all of your browser history, web history, all that. This is data that will then be sold on to third parties, right? Advertising companies, or the Russians. Yeah. Just kidding. Could be the Chinese or whatever. Okay. So Edward Snowden, in his famous leaks, he said that actually governments buy this data as well, right, from these app developers and so forth. So be very careful what information, what permission that you're giving any particular app or game when you download it, right? Viruses, okay, be very careful of viruses as well. There's 3 examples of viruses that are types of viruses that are very popular and we can easily fall prey to. Okay, random access tool. People can remotely access your webcam. Okay, that's why you see people with little stickers on their webcams, on their computers. Right? It's not just being paranoid, but privacy is important to you. You have to be aware of these risks. Crypto lock, okay, it locks some of your hard drives or your data until you pay them a ransom, or they blackmail you and so forth. Keyloggers can log keystrokes, record keystrokes, right? So that's everything now. If someone gets a small little piece of malware onto your machine, or even your phone, it can record everything that's happening. So whatever you're typing, even if your password for something is very, very, very super strong, if you have any weakness in your armor, they can get something in there to even record those password keystrokes that you're making, right? So often, your enemy, so to speak, will catch you in your weakest area, right? So we could have very, very strong network security, passwords, firewalls, all that kind of stuff that I don't have myself, right? Even if we have all of that, and you're very flippant about the things that you download, okay? You could be just letting the whole system down, okay, in your whole house. Digital footprint. This is very important, especially for young brothers and sisters, right? Many of us, as human beings, will make mistakes when we're young, in particular, right? But I'm about to mention a golden rule that all of you should remember, especially young brothers and sisters, right? Are you ready? You ready to memorize this? Don't ever do, say, or type anything online that you wouldn't do in real life. Okay? Does that make sense? Don't ever do, say, or type anything online that you wouldn't be prepared to say or do in real life. Okay? Because many people, if they feel that they're anonymous, you're not anonymous on the internet. Okay? But many people, when they feel that they're anonymous, their inhibitions get lifted, they get removed. So they might say something, maybe in a rude way. They might say something that they shouldn't be saying. They might type something that they shouldn't be typing, thinking no one can see them, nobody knows it's me. Right? Obviously, we know Allah is watching. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching. And what you do in cyberspace, right? What's cyberspace? Cyberspace is a metaphor for where your mind is when you're online and on these devices, right? So, anything you say on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, anything you do or say when you're playing Fortnite or FIFA or whatever, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is recording this as well. Okay? Now, for your internet search history, there's a delete button and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But if you make a sin, the delete button for that is very difficult if you're not careful. Alright? What's the delete button for committing a sin? Yeah? Making istighfar, making tawbah. Right? But some of us may not realize, but we might be doing so many of these sins, right? Online, thinking that it's just normal, and we're not even realizing that we're doing so many of these sins. Such as, for example, making fun of someone, yeah, talking about someone behind their back. This is riba, right? Talking about your brother behind his back or your sister behind her back. Right? Maybe someone put something up on social media and you just put a comment there, maybe being rude to them. They talk about the inhibition of the eyes. Right? When you see someone, right, you see them with your own eyes, you have some barriers. You won't do certain things. Right? You won't kind of be rude to them, you won't be harsh to them and so forth. But when they're away from your eyes, it's easier to be rude, it's easier to fall into these problems. Right? Because we're talking about how to survive, including with our iman and our akhlaq, our manners online, in the digital world. Okay. Now, there's many of us might know people, right, who maybe got in trouble later on in life for something they posted when they were younger. Right? Maybe at a job interview or something, or definitely if somebody maybe wants to go into a few politicians, for example, right? They got in trouble for something they said when they were younger. Okay. What's the golden rule I want us to all memorize? Yeah. Yeah.
Do you say or type anything what you were doing very well?
Yes. Don't do, say, or type anything on the internet that you wouldn't do in real life. Okay. So if you're about to type something, just think, am I happy for people to know that it's actually me saying this? If you think no, then this should raise a bit of an alarm bell. Okay? Be very careful about this.
Just a point on that one, though.
Yeah.
You said that there's a delete button, but there's really no delete button on the internet also.
Yes.
It's like only deleted in your account, but it is always in the server.
Yes. Even if you delete things from your end, once you send out that tweet, when you send out that thing on the internet, it's there now. Right? If somebody wants to dig up dirt on you, they will. Okay? And there's an increasing sophistication of tools that exist to dig up dirt on people, right? Automatically, used by governments, used by security services, used by journalists, or just used by people wanting to, cause trouble. Okay, be very, very careful. Another thing I wanted to mention is I'm going to trying to be very careful because there's young brothers here and sisters maybe. There's an increasing trend of young people being asked online for inappropriate pictures of themselves, either by people from their own age or people older than them. Okay, you might have had, maybe assemblies or workshops and stuff at school about this. It's something that you have to be very, very careful of, right? I speak to brothers who are, school leaders regularly. One of them said, particularly in Muslim kind of areas, we're not safe from these types of harms, right? There will be people who try to contact our sisters and even brothers, right, to try and get them to do inappropriate things and send them inappropriate pictures. This is very important that you're aware of this. Okay, there's intense pressure on young people, right? Sometimes to send pictures of themselves, maybe nude pictures or pictures that are inappropriate. NSPCC did a survey and childline in 2013 on teenagers. They said 60% said they were asked to send inappropriate videos or messages at one point, right? At least one point. 60%. They were random people asked them online or people they knew to send them inappropriate images of themselves. 40% said, 40% of those who were asked said they had created one themselves as a result of them being asked. 25% of those said they had actually sent it to someone, and 33% said they had sent it to someone they knew online but never met in real life. And 15% said they had sent it to a complete stranger. Right? This is leading to what some people are calling a haya crisis. Because as Muslims we know we have haya, we have some modesty, we have some shame that, for example, you cover your aura, and just as you're doing things in public, likewise when sending pictures in private, you should be very careful of this. Especially, it's something that everyone needs to know. In the UK, according to English law, if somebody sends, right, an inappropriate picture of someone under 18, they will be charged, and put on certain lists and registers, even if that picture was of themselves. I'll say that again, If somebody sends an inappropriate picture of an under 18 person through any digital medium, right, they are liable to be prosecuted. It's illegal, and they could be themselves registered as on certain lists as people who do this, even if the picture they sent was a picture of themselves. So a friend of mine who's a vice principal in a high school, okay, in London, he said he has to deal with these very difficult situations of, for example, even Muslim girls, right, who are approached online to send pictures of themselves and so forth. Now the children themselves now are liable to be prosecuted under the law as well. So this is very, again, these are new types of dangers and challenges and threats that we have to be very careful of. Okay. Solutions, we went over some solutions, okay, last time. But I wanted to just round up by getting your thoughts, inshallah. How can we, okay, protect our iman and our akhlaq, our manners online? Right? Give us some, I want you guys to give me some ideas, right? So next time we do this, we can have more ideas to share and give. So who wants to kick us off? Yeah. Yeah.
Only use it when you need to use it.
Only use it when you need to use it. Okay.
If you're online and there's like a chat group, if people around you are using bad language or something, inappropriate images and stuff, doesn't give you free permission to do it, just because they're doing it.
Yes, excellent. If you're on an online chat group, for example, right, and again I say this, if you're under 25, you shouldn't be, okay? Not many people are going to listen to this, but it's important you just think about, try and set the bar high for yourself, right? That under 25, be very careful about any access to these devices that are designed to exploit our brain chemistry. But anyway, even if you are on a chat group, people are using foul language, people are exhibiting un-Islamic behavior, right? No, that does not give you a free pass to partake in that, okay? Because what happens in cyberspace now, what happens online now, is the same as what happens Islamically. It will take a very similar ruling, if not the same ruling, to what happens when you do something. So, for example, as many ulama have said, you shouldn't be in a private communication channel with a member of the opposite sex, right? That you have no relationship with, personal, message or message group or chat room or something like this. Just like you wouldn't mix and mingle with people you, in private, with maybe, if you're a man with a woman, or if you're a woman with a man, who you have no relationship with. Okay? So the gender interaction has to be very, you have to be very careful with that as well. Using foul language, the brother said. Okay? This is something the Prophet ﷺ said, I was sent to perfect good character. The Prophet ﷺ wouldn't, didn't teach us to learn our values, to learn our morals, to learn our behavior from other people. He came to show us the perfect standard of moral character that we emulate from him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right? Images the brother mentioned, be very careful about those. Okay. Backbiting, riba. What's backbiting? Yeah.
When you talk badly about somebody and then like that.
Yeah. When you say something about someone that they wouldn't like you to say. Okay, that's one of the definition the Prophet ﷺ gave, roughly speaking. When you say something about your brother, the Muslim brother, not meaning just your biological brother, but any Muslim, when you say something about them that they wouldn't like you to say. Okay? And this is a very, very, very serious sin. Very serious. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that this is like you are eating the dead, rotting flesh of your brother. Okay? This is something that poisons the whole of society. People don't trust each other anymore to have relationships with, and it just poisons the whole atmosphere of any community. And this happens all the time online, unfortunately, in these chat groups, in these comment sections and so forth. How else can we protect our iman and akhlaq online? Right? Yep.
Using your device in view of everyone else around you.
Using your device in the view of everyone else around you. This is very bad, right? Sometimes I go to, like you see in restaurants, like 5 people on a table eating, and each one is on his own phone while he's eating, right? Why are you even there? Unless he's saying, wait. Bismillah, delicious. Wow, nice. Yeah. I take pictures of food as well, but it has a reason. Right? I took a picture of a really nice cake the other day. But I had a reason for it. I wanted to make my wife jealous. Yeah. If there's no reason, how many just random pictures of food that we have on our phones that we'll never see again. But instead, subhanAllah, we're not enjoying the moment. Right? One sheikh, he said that he went on a helicopter ride over a city, and his friend throughout the whole ride was just on his device, just recording it, looking at the view through his screen. He didn't even look at it in real life. And he said to him, you could have just seen a YouTube video about this. You didn't absorb things in real life, just be in the moment.
Maybe you wanted to treasure the moment.
Come on, you can treasure the moment, not the whole thing you're looking through the screen. Is that what you meant?
Not really.
What did you mean?
The screen needs to face everyone else and everyone to see what you're doing.
Oh, right, yes. Excellent, very good. Especially in a household with young people, right? Don't have every person, with his laptop or computer in private rooms. It's good for your own kind of psychologically as well to separate your sleep area from your work area and your kind of socializing area. So have your screens, have your computers if you can, in a more public area within your house so that everyone can see the screen and what's happening. It's harder now because everything's portable.
I would suggest as a father that we should give our children the desktops, not the laptops, and the screen should be facing towards not towards the wall,
Yes.
but towards the door or towards the room so that anyone can see what's going on.
Yeah.
That's how it's in my house.
Use desktops if you can, not laptops, so the screen is facing other people.
And we should also block these sites like the free gaming sites and these porno gamblings and these porn
Yes.
sites we can block. Very easily, it's not difficult.
Yes, there are many ways that we can block certain sites, and sometimes ISPs come with automatic software anyway. That may be someone with but maybe a good idea to share some practical advice, maybe in your local WhatsApp groups, ironically or whatever, right? But the thing with young people is, mashallah, if you block something, there's always a way around it they can find. Yeah. But so we have to empower our young people to realize the risks of why these things should be blocked. Okay, young brothers and sisters, so that you are in agreement and you know that this is good for you, and you know that at any time your parents can look up on your what's happening, what you've been searching and so forth, and also that you know the risks and you're not tempted to do something bad, right, by having these things, because there's other people maybe from outside who will try to influence.
Another piece of advice to parents, like if you are giving your device to your kids, like iPad or anything, you should log in with your own ID, like your own Apple ID, so that your kid can't download and install any of the game or anything themselves.
Yes. If you're going to give give access to young people of these devices, make sure you know how to control that access. It's very easy to make an account, okay, where the person's not allowed to download anything, person's not allowed to, or a children's account now in particular, on iOS, on Mac OS, I don't know, probably on Windows as well, that automatically prevents young people from, or prevents certain users from doing certain things, different permissions. Right? Don't just buy something from the shop and give it to your, give it to your child, because this is a huge, huge risk. Right? And young people as well, if your parents do this, if they just hand you something and you know that there's stuff that you can do that's bad on it, you should tell them, look, Dad, can you please put the right settings on for me, right? Because I'm a responsible child, I know what I should be doing, I know what I shouldn't be doing, right? And have that relationship with your parents, and it will give you some brownie points as well, inshallah, and for the future. Yeah. Yeah.
Just to reiterate, I think perhaps the point we've made already is that from giving these devices to our children, it's almost a form of, we take it as a form of passive parenting. So they can tuck away in a corner and we can do our own thing. But actually, we have to be much more active parents, because we do have to engage with them, and by doing otherwise, we're disengaging from them. And ultimately, 5 years, 10 years later, when they end up doing things that surprise us or shock us, well, it's because we've replaced our parenting with these devices.
Yeah, very good. Just for the benefit of the sisters, the brother said that we have to, as parents, be active parents, not passive parents who just give these devices to our kids because it keeps them busy and it shuts them up sometimes. Yeah. Because then a few years down the line, if they do something that shocks us, it's going to be infinitely harder to fix a problem then than to prevent these issues in the first place. Very sound advice, inshallah.
Just in addition to that one, these are very good advices, but we should realize there will be mistakes, and we should have an open channel with our kids, where they can feel confident coming to us, and if we can't resolve it, we've got to seek advice and support them in it. And if we have that strong relationship, most of these things should be.
Yeah, subhanAllah. People are going to make mistakes, the brother's saying. And our children are going to make mistakes as well, but there's no recourse but to have an open relationship with them where they can come to us with their mistakes, right? And maybe not get a tapar. Yeah. Maybe not even a jabir. Okay. Very, very important, yes. We should be able to learn from our mistakes. But the point is, we want to be in a position where we mitigate the risks as much as possible, the major risks, right? So the major risks of the data that we're leaking away, maybe vulnerability to hackers and people with viruses and so forth on our machines, explicit material that shouldn't be for young people, like over 18, that kind of stuff, right? Who is communicating with us, especially when we're playing, online games and this type of stuff. Right. I'm going to end with this, just a quick reminder solutions, right? Turn off notifications, break the dopamine cycle, digital sunset. So try and have a point where beyond a certain time and before a certain time in the morning, no electronic devices, right? Try and this is hard obviously, yeah. If you're addicted, don't let your phone be the last thing you see before you go to sleep, right? Under 25s, yeah, no smartphones if you're under 25. Yeah, no smartphones if you're under 25. Okay, 18 if you want, but okay, be very careful and haggle with your parents. Say, look, Salman, he said, don't get a phone until you're 25, so I'll settle for a car, Dad. when I'm 17 or whatever. Haggle with your parents. Say, look, Dad, he said no free games. Yeah. So I'll be happy if you just buy me the latest, expensive gaming console and blah blah blah. Because he said I can't play any free games.
You're sponsored by free games, so you get money from sales.
No free games, I'm saying. I'm not sponsored by them. It's the opposite, right? Lead by example, parents. The reason why our kids always want these things is because they see mama and baba on it, right, often. And most importantly, make dua. If we're going to give our kids some access to these devices, that they know the risks, know how to control the settings of what information is being shared and leaked and so forth. Have a look in your own time at history.google.com, for example, and control the permissions of things that we're doing and leaking there. And yes, this has been a very, very condensed, inshallah, how to survive online, how to survive in the digital world. If there's any comments, questions, then bismillah.
You mentioned you were going to talk about email encryption.
Oh yes, email encryption, right. So, encryption, okay, is when you make it impossible, not really impossible, but very difficult for somebody to read the contents of something that you're doing. Okay. Now, the main email clients that we normally use, kind of Yahoo and Yahoo still around, Hotmail, Gmail, right? They're not encrypted. So Gmail, Google will read your emails that you're sending and kind of target advertisements and stuff to you. There are ways to encrypt it. Proton Mail, for example, or you can just Google these types of things. And it goes back to your kind of danger profile, your risk profile, right? If you're doing very sensitive work and your emails are very highly sensitive, then you should have something like this anyway. And the more secure you become in your privacy, the less convenient things are as well, right? So you might be using different browsers, you might be obviously the mail client and so forth, different types of password setups, right? So when it comes to protecting your privacy, okay, that's I think a whole other, so many things that we can do. And there's some very good guides as well. We're working on something in Islam to release in the coming weeks, inshallah, about this, about protecting your privacy online, particularly for Muslim activists, right? But it's something useful for everyone, inshallah. But yeah, email encryption is one thing, so you can look at Proton Mail as an example. And Arif Bhai was nodding his head, so he can give you his
is that Yahoo, is it?
Not. What do you mean?
I've got Yahoo.
Yahoo. I'm not sure if about the. It's basically like another type of email service and that kind of stuff. Right. You can get some encryption services that use the Yahoo or Gmail or whatever, but you'll have to search around and stuff. Yeah.
What about brick phones?
Brick phones are very good, right? You should be proud if you have a brick phone, mashallah. Brick phones build people, yeah? Like that? Brick phones build society. Don't get smartphones if you're under 25. Get brick phones. Yeah? You might need a phone for whatever. If you need one for, like, if you're going to, I don't know, for whatever reason. Yeah.
What age should you have that?
True?
What age should you have a
GCSE.
Should do your GCSEs as early as possible then if you want. Okay. These types of things you want to talk to your parents about, right? And discuss it with them. Yeah.
There is an app which you can download, and it tells you when your contacts were accessed by every app, and you can disable. So you could use that to actually stop. So whilst installing, you can give the permission, immediately go to the app, and then just stop these permissions. That way you can be safe. In terms of location, your phone doesn't have the same location. There are a lot of other ways to capture your location, so it's evolved quite drastically. If you travel across London, there's so many Bluetooth beacons that it can, your phone is automatically positioned. So it's very difficult to stop all of that. You could disable apps using location and only enable it when it's required. So you'll have to use third-party apps for it. You could use KeePass to ensure that your password is very strong and is regularly recycled or updated. There's only a few things you could do to minimize. And
If you're blocking somebody in a Toyota hours,
Okay. So KeyPass, you mentioned different, like LastPass, that's a good one as well.
Yeah,
different password, what are they called? Password vaults?
Password manager.
Managers, yeah. Okay, that's good.
It's stopping identity
different
theft
apps.
is probably the best thing.
Stopping identity theft, yeah.
It's probably a good thing to do.
What was the name of the app you said that blocks?
I think it's App Manager something. I don't know the exact name, but there is a.
I mean, within the phone operating system as well, it allows you to
do that, but that's
block
very laborious.
certain,
You have to go
apps,
to every app. But this one actually lists all of the apps and also tells when did this app access your contacts last. So that way you could tell, like, if it's an app which shouldn't have access to your contacts, then why did he do it? So then you can block it.
So he was saying, brother's basically saying that you can get third-party apps that show you which apps of yours are accessing, for example, your contacts, and you can block them from doing that. Yeah.
It's just from my own experience. So sometimes you're well-meaning, intended, you put your intended, and you put in boundaries, and that over the months and years start to erode and fall by the wayside. So it's just remembering that at the beginning we can think we're protected because we've got rules. The rules start to get broken and fall.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So just remind the brothers. Saying that you will set some boundaries in your home, for example, but over the months it'll be easy to come back to erode those boundaries. So it's important to keep resetting those and yeah.
Also your internet router. The router knows which website you visit, how long you stay in that website. They are actually collecting that information. So every router has got that information collected, and they will sell that information as well.
Your router,
so even if you block everything on your phone and computer, but your router is doing the job then.
So that's the thing about finding the weakest entry point. Yeah. So try to make sure you have, you change the passwords on all of these different things and they're strong passwords and so forth. Yeah.
Devices, they ask for your location. Can people, like hackers, use that location to find where they maybe rob you or something, and should you turn it on or off?
It's possible, right? This is why you should only have these types of devices when you're old enough to manage the risks yourself. Right? Because for you, different people have different levels of risk, right? If somebody is someone who's, some people will, maybe he's well known, some people will will have a malicious intent against him or her, then they would have a different risk profile to someone who, isn't like that, right? So, in my opinion, turn it all off, okay? And only turn those things on that you need. Think of it that way. As the default position is you're not sharing any information with anyone, and only share that information with people that you want to share information with. Yeah. But I don't want anyone to kind of just become OCD and start despairing about, being spied on all the time, or paranoid or something, right? If there's anything we need to be afraid of, it's the actual machines taking over and like destroying human life. So there's probably still a few years before that becomes a serious issue, right? But I'm just kidding, by the way. So you don't feel like, scared of these things. Just know, be empowered that you know now a lot of the risks. Now you're empowered to, use them wisely and reduce the risks and turn off certain things that you might you might have left on and so forth. Right? Yep.
People could just use ad blocker.
Pardon?
People could just use ad blocker.
Ad blockers are good, right? But it depends on, ad blockers are for people who are annoyed by ads, right? They're not necessarily for people who are maybe very conscious about this privacy and security and so forth.
Yeah,
So you would add different layers of protection. So
just to help block.
yeah, ad blocker, things that regularly delete your cookies and history, things that force you to go force secure versions of site to load whenever you go on them. Sometimes even new browsers, having different browsers for different jobs, right? Depending how serious you are about your privacy and security. So that's a good thing, ad blockers and so forth.
This thing about using different browsers. So for example, what you can do is, if you use Google, for example, and sign into Google, you do that on one browser, and your other activity you do in another one. Because otherwise, if you're signed in, then cookies and analytics and stuff, everything gets.
Yeah, excellent. So one practical piece of advice Sheikh Arif gave was, if you do want to use Gmail and a Google account and so forth, no problem. Have a particular browser for that. And this doesn't mean a browser window, it means the actual browser. So maybe you're using, Chrome just for that, right? But then for your rest of your browsing, you're buying stuff, you're browsing the web, whatever, doing other stuff. You have maybe Mozilla Firefox open, and you're using that, so they can't communicate with each other, and Google doesn't have access to everything that you're doing, just the stuff that you want it to have access to. It's called compartmentalization. Yep.
I've got a tip about it.
Tip.
So to stop your data being stolen, like when you go to cafes, there's the free internet, but you've got to be careful about joining them, because some people in there might have made the fake one, but when you connect to it, they can steal your data.
Excellent. Be careful of free internet hotspots in public. Some people can make fake ones and steal your data. I mean, some really creative thinking goes into into this stuff. If only they put this ability towards some good productive things. We'd have cured cancer by now. We'd have done so much as a species, right? But some people are just hell bent on using their skills to steal your data and stuff. Yeah.
Isn't there like browsers which stop, they don't track you, like DuckDuckGo?
So DuckDuckGo is a good search engine, for example. I forgot to mention that. So you don't have to use Google for everything. You can use DuckDuckGo. What other ones are there? Start page. Yeah. And if you really kind of want to be clever, you can use different search engines all the time. So that's a good example. That's a search engine that doesn't save and sell your data about what you've been searching about. Yeah.
There's a web browser called Tor, which was made by the American military for the purpose use of it being really, really private. And that even the American governments themselves can't gain access to it. In fact, when you launch it, it tells you how to be more private.
So there's Tor browser, short for the Onion router. I think it uses Mozilla Firefox.
Yeah.
Yes, it can be built into that. So again, it depends on your risk kind of profile. If you're like a diplomat, or if you're Edward Snowden or something, then you've got literally like the NSA after you. You have to be very, very strict and inconvenienced by lots of things that you need privacy for. If you're just the average, Joe and Abdullah, then just be careful of the risks and, make that decision about where you draw the line between privacy and convenience and stuff. There's something we can all do, right? Like just have strong passwords and update them regularly and, know what information data we're leaking and which apps we give permission to do one and so forth.